Hello everyone and welcome to a new lecture. This is related to your third worksheet called Escaping Endless Adolescence, and it's related to adolescent anxiety. Okay, Escaping the Endless Adolescence by Kelly Roll. Read the following text in which the writer talks about some problems of adolescence for one troubled boy. When you are through, answer the questions set on the text. As 15-year-old Perry shuffled into my office with his parents trailing tentatively behind him, he glanced at me with a strained, neutral expression that I had found usually masked either great anger or great distress. In Perry's case, it was both. As Perry's parents began talking, another problem, but this time overtly means openly, unfolded itself. He was anorexic. I already explained in the lecture video. An anorexic person is a person who has issues related to their weight. They're very, very thin due to a certain mental disorder, either extreme anxiety or a distorted body image. Although anorexia is an eating disorder most often associated with girls, Perry was the third in a line of anorexic boys I had recently seen in my clinic. Okay, clinic. So obviously the narrator is a psychiatrist treating Perry for his condition. When he came to see me, Perry's weight had dropped to within 10 pounds of the limit requiring forced hospitalization, yet he denied there was a problem. So Perry didn't think that he had a problem. Obviously, his parents felt that the issue has become huge and they took him to the psychiatrist. Paragraph 2, he just won't eat, his mother moaned. Then, turning to Perry, who neither opposed her nor made any flippant or rude retort, as most teens his age would do, she tried to show me the routine they had been enacting at home. Okay, obviously his mother was moaning, she was desperate, she was feeling hopeless, she's losing her teenage boy. And yet she was speaking, but Perry was so tired, maybe so helpless, reaching that point of depression. He didn't even make a rude retort, a reply that a teenager would sometimes make when his mother or father are talking about an issue related to him or her. She tried to show me the routine they had been enacting at home. She asked with tears in her eyes, "Perry, why can't you at least have a simple dinner with us?" Perry, it seems, always refused to eat with his family, claiming he was not hungry at the time and that he preferred to eat later in his room. Yet that rarely happened, eating in his room. New kinds of food, gentle coaxing and encouragement, veiled threats, nagging, and outright bribes had all been tried. Bribing someone means giving them money to do something they're supposed to do. To no avail. No, nothing resulted from it. Why would an otherwise healthy 15-year-old boy be starving himself? The question hung urgently in the air as we talked. Paragraph 3. Let's be clear from the outset. Perry was a smart, well-bred boy. Well-bred, well brought up. He's well-mannered. And surprisingly unassuming kid. He was getting straight A's, high achiever, in a challenging and competitive school, in a difficult school, and was always on the school's honor list. I later knew that he had not gotten a B on his report card since 4th grade. Academically, means related to education, schooling, Perry was every parent's dream child. I listened with a professional look to his parents' complaints that Perry hardly spoke of his outstanding academic performance and grades among his relatives and peers. So Perry was not the boastful kind. "Oh, look, I'm getting straight A's, I'm better than you, I'm an outstanding student." He didn't speak about this neither to his peers, his likes at school, nor to his cousins or relatives, as many people would generally do. But beneath this, Perry faced a world of troubles. The problems were not what I had expected, though. Perry was not abused. Okay, he was not bullied, not abused, not cyberbullied. He did not do drugs. And his family was not driven by conflict, so no conflicts in his family. Rather, at first glance, his problems would seem more like typical adolescent complaints. And they were in a way. But it was only as I got to understand him that I realized the adolescent problems Perry experienced weren't just occasional irritations and oscillating moods. Okay, you know, adolescents have, as adolescents, you know this, you have swinging moods. Oscillating means swinging up and down. One moment I'm feeling so thrilled, so happy, and the other I just want to sit in my room and I don't want anyone to talk to me. Okay, so Perry experience weren't just occasional irritations and oscillating moods as they'd been for me and my age group as teens, but rather had grown more critical to the point where they affected his day-to-day world. Okay, here the author is talking about the difference between teenage problems during her time and during the times of Perry. Things have changed for adolescents. Okay, for me, for my generation, as a person in her 40s, when I was a teenager, we did not experience the amount of pressure that you guys now are experiencing. Everything related to academics, schooling, high achievements, and social media, the amount of pressure that has been put on teenagers by social media, by having the perfect image, etc. This was not cast upon us at this level. We didn't have to deal with all of this. We had to deal with some of it. So obviously the amount of anxiety that today's teenagers and or adolescents are experiences is much higher. Paragraph 5, one big problem was that while Perry was a strong achiever, he was very good at school, he was not at all a happy one. He was not happy with his grades, straight A's all the time, yet not satisfied. Now Perry is speaking. I hate waking up in the morning because there's all this stuff I have to do, Perry said. I just keep making lists of things to do and checking them off each day, not just schoolwork but extracurricular activities, so I can get into a good college. Again, this is one major point of anxiety for today's adolescents, getting into the perfect prestigious college. Once he got started talking, Perry's discontent spilled out in a frustrated way, reflecting some psychological disturbances. There's so much to do and I have to really work to get myself motivated because I feel like none of it really matters. But it's really important and I do it anyway. At the end of it all, I stay up late, I get all my homework done, I study really hard for all my tests, and what do I get to show for it all? I get a single sheet of paper with 5 or 6 letters on it. It's just stupid. Perry was gifted enough to achieve academically as it has been set for him, but it consumed him. What does consumed mean? It has eaten him up from the inside mentally. It has become meaningless to him. Paragraph 6. Eventually, I came to realize that Perry was well loved by his parents, as are most of the young people we see. But in their efforts to nurture and support him, to make him grow and give him the support he needs, his parents inadvertently, without realizing, increased his mental strain or mental pressure and placed him under great pressure. Over time, they had taken on all his household chores in order to leave him more time for schoolwork activities. That's his top priority, school. That's his parents speaking. They said almost in agreement when I asked about this. Although removing the chores from Perry's plate gave him a bit more time, it ultimately left him feeling even more useless and tense. Okay, tense, nervous, not happy. He never really did anything for anyone. And if he thought about neglecting his schoolwork, his parents would pressure him to set things right. Trapped between anger and guilt, Perry had literally begun to die away. Literally. He's dying away. Why? He's been emaciated by this anorexia, to the bone. And the lack of appetite for food was only an expression of these feelings. Okay, now part A, fill out the chart below with information from paragraphs 2 and 3 only. List 2 positive descriptions the narrator gives Perry, 2 characteristics, then state how Perry's behavior reflected these qualities. Okay, qualities or characteristics or traits of Perry as seen by the narrator. I chose polite. Now, what was your clue? Why did you say that he was polite? Perry did not retort when his mother was talking about him in the psychiatrist's office. Okay, this was one piece of evidence that he wasn't a rude teenager. He was polite. Another quality of Perry, smart, high achiever, hardworking, all mean the same. You can choose this one of them. What was my evidence? He was getting straight A's in a challenging and competitive school and was always on the school's honor list. Okay, please remember when you write here, only write in phrases, not complete sentences. Okay, just the quick ideas. Part B, answer the following questions in 2 to 4 sentences of your own. What was the issue Perry was passing through? Briefly, guys, I just want you to tell me that he had anorexia and what that meant. Perry was suffering from anorexia. He did not have an appetite for food. 2. What attempts had the parents made to convince Perry? Remember, they were talking about how they tried everything. They tried different things. They gave him new kinds of food, gentle coaxing. Coaxing means, okay, sweetie, why don't you eat your plate? Everything's going to be all right. That's coaxing. Encouragement, veiled threats. They even threatened him. If you don't eat, we're going to punish you. Nagging. They keep telling him on and on and on, please eat, please eat. And even tried to bribe him, give him money to eat. Give him something like money or maybe an iPad or whatever or a phone. Yet, none of those attempts worked with him. Number 3, with reference to paragraphs 5 and 6, explain to what extent Perry's parents contributed to his present state. How much, to what extent means how much did his parents contribute, add to his condition. By referring to these paragraphs, we found that without realizing it, Perry's parents put mental strains on him and increased the pressure on him. For example, in their effort to give him more time for schoolwork and studying and activities, they removed his household chores. Chores are small jobs that you do at home, like making your bed, folding your laundry, doing the dishes maybe. They took that away from him, but that only made him feel more useless. He was just stuck with things related to academics and studying. Now, number 4, in what sense are the narrator's problems during adolescence different from those of Perry? I was just telling you a short while ago that during my time or the narrator's time, things were much more simple. We didn't experience we did experience a lot of pressure, but it was nothing compared to what adolescents nowadays are experiencing due to things like social media, peer pressure. It's much worse now. And the colleges, the prestigious colleges being more and more difficult to get to. Okay? The narrator stated that she realized the adolescent problems Perry experienced were not just the usual annoyances and mood swings as they had been for her during and her age group as teens. Perry problems had become more serious to the point that they affected his daily life. Here the author is implying that adolescent issues in modern times have become much more complex or complicated if you want, and I explained this. 5. The writer ends the text stating that trapped between anger and guilt, the lack of appetite for food was only an expression of these feelings for Perry. Based on your own acquired knowledge of teenage problems, state and explain 2 other ways teenagers express their feelings of anger and guilt. How would you express your feelings? You would go into your room, maybe you would isolate yourself. Maybe a teenager with a huge problem, with a lot of negative peer pressure, might go take a new drug, try a new drug. Some people will go through technology addiction, online gaming, social media addiction. Some will have anger fits. Some will be abusive, so on and so forth. So, but this here answers will vary depending on your point of view. Now coming to the questions related to organizational skills. What type of introductory paragraph does the author use? Again, I want you to tell me the type. In this case, it's an anecdote or a brief story or narration. Tell me how you found out that it's an anecdote, your clue. The author uses an anecdote to introduce her article. She talked about a 15-year-old boy named Perry. So this is your clue, who walked into her clinic with his parents to deal with anorexia. Now the justification, why did the author use this type of introduction? Such a method attracts the reader's attention, prepares them for what is written in the text, and makes them curious to know more about the story that was introduced. Okay? Now, moving on, how would you describe the mother's tone in paragraph 2? As we all know, the tone has to be stated in adjective form: humorous, sad, critical, boastful, encouraging, alarming, in adjective form. Now, how was the mother's tone? Where do we get it from? It needs to be an adjective, and it is taken from the other author's choice of words. The mother's tone, please write 2 adjectives, even if there were synonyms: desperate and hopeless. What's your clue? Give me the evidence. The mother said, he just won't eat. His mother moaned. Moaning, you know, when you're desperate about something, you're fed up with it. The choice of words the author uses here shows how desperate the mother was. Part D. Which of the bold type words in the text are the meanings of the following words? Unhappiness, discontent. Okay, discontent. For those of you who know French, okay, content, this part of the word, means happy. Discontent, this D-I-S means on or not, unhappy. Number 2, swinging or changing, we talked about that. Oscillating. Okay, just you can imagine a swinging object, an oscillating object. You might have taken that in physics. Answer, we talked about this, a retort or a reply. Okay, brought up in a good way, well bred. Part D, the following sentences are false because they misinterpret the meanings in the selection. Rewrite each correctly so it agrees with the meaning stated or implied. Number 1, feelings of anger and distress, extreme sadness, were clearly shown on Perry's face as he entered the narrator's office. Was he really distressed and angry? No. In fact, the author said that Perry had a neutral expression. Neutral. Nothing. Neither sad nor happy. Nothing. Perry glanced at the narrator with a neutral expression that masked or hid either anger or distress. The narrator, a school supervisor, had an indifferent attitude when she saw Perry. The narrator was not a school supervisor. They said that. How did you know that? Because she said at the beginning, when he entered my office, my clinic. What's a clinic? Who uses a clinic? Okay, and she said that he had his anorexia was related to a mental issue. Obviously, she was a doctor. A psychiatrist is a doctor who deals with mental issues. Okay. Now, moving on to part D, what do the underlined pronouns in paragraphs 2, 4, and 7 refer to? That in paragraph 2, we talked about it when I was reading, refers to Perry eating later in his room. His refers to, in paragraph 3, refers to Perry. This in paragraph 4 refers to Perry's outstanding academic performance and grades. Remember, full sentence with a full stop. Okay. And finally, it in paragraph 6 refers to removing the house chores from Perry. Okay, so this is it for the worksheet for this week. Please go through it carefully. You can re-watch the video, and in case there's something that you still don't understand, please don't hesitate to contact me or write those questions for our next Zoom Live. See you and take care.